Hi class, welcome to week one. This is going to be a brief overview and some tutorials on doing the homework. So I am actually in Connect, which is our online lab. Your screen may look different than mine because I am an instructor, but you can kind of look at mine and see how we've got things arranged. So week one, you'll find the homework for chapter one, and in this case there's two assignments. There is a Learn Smart assignment, which is a smart book assignment, and then the homework problems will be listed second. So in some sense, however you link or however you log in, you should see two assignments for chapter one, and in general that's going to be the case. The Learn Smart assignments are a smart book assignment, so it's going to walk you through the chapter, and there'll be some questions that you have to answer. So my main advice for that is to make sure you answer the questions. If you just go through the chapter and you don't answer the questions, you won't get credit for that assignment. And let's look at the chapter one homework. Whoops. So this homework assignment has 18 problems. Some of these are kind of like tutorials that you need to work through, and you'll see a little indicator that says you have to complete the whole thing to get credit. So I'm not going to walk through those, but just make sure you do those, and there's quite a few that are like that. But let's jump over to some that actually have credit. So when you get to the problems, usually there'll be some instructions at the top, and you'll see some kind of worksheet or something you need to fill in the blanks. So let's just work through this one so you can kind of see how this works. This says Wolfpack Construction has the following account balances at the end of the year. We've got accounts, we've got balances, we got one question mark here, we don't know about that, and it says to prepare a balance sheet. So the first thing we need to know is what kind of accounts are listed on a balance sheet. So when you study chapter one, you should discover that asset accounts, liability accounts, and equity accounts are all listed on the balance sheet. So there'll be some times when you'll have a list of accounts that are other types of accounts, but in this case we want to do assets, liabilities, and equity. So if we look up here at our balances, we need to figure out which ones fall into those three categories. We've got equipment, that's an asset, that's something that the company owns for future use. Accounts payable is a liability, that's a debt. So anytime you see the word payable, that's going to be a liability. An expense is not an asset, it's not a liability, and it's not an equity. Actually, an expense is an expense account that's going to show up on your income statement. So this one we can just kind of skip because income and expenses don't show up on the income statement. I'm sorry, they don't show up on the balance sheet. They do show up on the income statement. Common stock represents ownership, so that's stockholders' equity. Land is something that we own for our future use, so that's an asset. Notes payable, there's that word payable, which should be a hint that that's a liability. Sales revenue is a revenue account. Revenue accounts do not fall under assets, liabilities, or equity on the balance sheet. They go on the income statement. So there's another one that we can skip. And cash is something that we own, that we use. It has economic benefit to us, so that is an asset. And retained earnings represent earnings that kind of fall into the category of earnings that the owners have earned that they are then reinvesting into the company, if that somewhat makes sense. So that one's going to show up on the balance sheet as well, but we don't have an amount for that. So let's just start whittling away at this. So we need to list our assets. So to do that, we're going to click on the, well, I guess it's going to make us, aha, there we go. Should show a drop down menu, but that kind of was glitching. So if it doesn't, just try to type. So we're going to list cash, and we're going to put in the amount. And we've got equipment, and we're going to put in the amount. Oh, there was land. And we're going to put in the amount for that. I think that's it, but we can always go back. So our liabilities, we had two payables. We had accounts payable and notes payable. And sometimes there'll be like a little thing that's a drop down. I don't know why this one's different, but that's okay. You can just type them in. So accounts payable was 1,100. Notes payable was 10,500. All right. So let's just see what we've got so far. We took care of equipment. We took care of accounts payable. Salaries expense goes on the income statement. Common stock, $11,000. So let's put that in here. We've got land, notes payable we have down there. Our revenue doesn't go on here. It goes on the income statement. Cash we have here. So we have everything but our retained earnings. So then the trick is to figure out what our retained earnings is. And retained earnings is equity, so it's going to go there. So one of the things we have to understand is how the accounting equation works. So the accounting equation says that assets should equal liabilities plus stockholders' equity. And that's kind of what the balance sheet's showing us. Assets on this side should equal liabilities and stockholders' equity on this side. So if we know most of this, we can solve for an unknown. So we know that assets is $29,100. So I'm going to use my calculator. And we know that so far we've got liabilities plus equity of $22,600. So just by looking at this, we know that we need to add an additional amount here so that we are in balance. So if we take the $29,100 minus the $22,600, that is a $6,500 difference that we need to plug in there to keep our liabilities and equity in balance with our assets. So now that we're in balance, that should do it. Down here, you'll see a check my work, so you can use that. And if we've done things correctly, you will see answer is complete and correct. And you should see little green check marks everywhere that's complete. If you put something in that's incorrect, you will see a red X mark. If you leave something out, and this is important to know, if you leave something out and there's a blank, it will not put a red X mark. It will just say answer is not complete. So you have to find where you're missing something if you're missing it. So let's go back here. All right, let's look at this one. This says on December 31st, Fighting Okra Cooking Services reports revenue and expenses. And it says we've got some balances here that we need to worry about. It says prepare an income statement. So on an income statement, you'll see revenues and expenses. So it looks like that first chart are all either revenue or expenses that need to go down here. So we're going to start with our revenue. Oops. 89,000. And your numbers may be different than mine, but that's expected. The basic format should be the same. So then we're going to list our expenses. We got postage expense, not postage, postage. And legal fees. And rent. Salaries. And supplies. So I'm just going to transfer those numbers down. And let's see what it says. We're going to check our work. And you'll see, I've got all these green check marks, but it says answer is not complete. So there's something missing here, which of course we've got a whole second part. So that would be an indicator that something is not finished. All right. Let's see what else our instructions say. So all of this stuff in the additional instructions says common stock, retained earnings. Those are both equity items, so they're not going to show up on the income statement. And then it says we issued some additional stock and paid dividends. Again, those are things that are not going to show up on the income statement. So at this point, we've got revenue, we've got expenses. So we can figure out what our bottom line is. So we need to decide if it's a net income or net loss. So to decide, you just look and see, well, which is bigger. So we had more revenue than we had expenses. So we had more money coming in than going out. So we have a net income. And our net income is going to be the difference between our revenues and our expenses. It's like $12,200. And if you want to, you can check your work again, make sure you did your math right. If you've left something out of the income statement, then this wouldn't be right. So that looks like we've got everything right in the first part. So then it says prepare a statement of stockholders' equity. And I'm not going to do all of this, but you can kind of notice that a lot of this is going to come out of here. And remember how the financial statements link together. So your income statement you do first because you need the net income. And that net income carries over to your statement of stockholders' equity, which you do second. And then you're going to do your balance sheet third because you need your stockholders' equity balances to put on your balance sheet. So you should be able to find most of this, and you'll have column 1 and column 2, and those should total up to column 3. Some things may be in common stock, and some may be in retained earnings, but probably not in both. And remember, you've got to bring your net income down here, and that's going to go in your retained earnings somewhere. So you're going to have some, there's a little drop down. So you should see a little drop down here to pick some things if you need to do so. And that's how you're going to finish that. So this is just a brief overview of how you do the homework for the first chapter that we are on. And as always, if you get stuck on the homework, you need assistance, feel free to send me an email. You can also contact me by phone or text, and I will try to assist you.